One of the first characters that we meet on our journey is the sculptor, an ex-shinobi who drags our unconscious body from our battle with Genichiro to the dilapidated temple. This man shows us, in his own grumpy way, kindness. He replaces our arm and equips us with upgrades, which allow us to pursue our vengeance and our mission. He says he will offer us shelter any time, and indeed his temple and companionship become a sort of home for us. Yet this mysterious man does have a history. He is nicknamed Orangutan by Emma, and was once a shinobi like we are now. The prosthetic arm was in fact developed for him, and the prosthetic esoteric text is a collection of research and experience that the sculptor has gained by wielding the prosthetic arm. When you bring the sculptor your first shinobi tool to put into the prosthetic arm, he describes the various ways in which you can use these tools to slaughter your enemies. The conversation between us goes like this.
Fitting more devices means more ways to slay your enemies. If there's someone that needs killing, there's a proper way to kill them. That's all there is to it.
Seems you know this prosthetic very well.
I should calm myself. The more I speak of bloodshed, the more demonic my sculptures will become.
Firstly, Wolf comments on how well the orangutan knows this item, and indeed this ex-shinobi did once use this weapon to great effect to destroy his enemies. The collection of skills in the prosthetic esoteric text implies that he was an extremely skilled shinobi. Indeed, he is recognized by other shinobi. For if you fight Owl in the past in the Hirata estate, if you use the prosthetic arm, he recognizes this arm and knows who it used to belong to. If the orangutan's reputation is known by the master shinobi Owl, we can assume that this shinobi was a force to be reckoned with. Yet how and why did he become the one-armed sculptor if he was once a skilled shinobi? If you share a drink with him, he will tell you what happened.
Ache.
Your left arm?
Yes, and this sake was a favorite of the man who cut it off.
Who was?
Lord Ishin.
Ishin. Why?
He did it for my sake. I was on the verge of being consumed.
Consumed by what?
Shura.
We can therefore see that it was Lord Ishin who cut off the sculpture's arm, and essentially left him in the state that we find him today. Yet the sculptor seems grateful for this, that Ishin did it for his own good. For the sculptor tells us that he was becoming Shura. Shura has a couple of different meanings in Japanese. Firstly, it can be used to describe the Buddhist demigod of war. It can be also used to describe someone who has become lost to their own bloodlust and must fight relentlessly against anyone and anything, causing extreme violence and devastation. This can also be our fate if we so choose the Shura ending. In this ending, Wolf becomes an unstoppable killing machine, killing for the sake of it. Shura. He sides with Owl, kills Emma and Ishin, yet even kills Owl just for the sake of it, because they have been lost to their own bloodlust. The narrator describes that the Shura goes on to have a reign of terror over these lands. This alternate ending gives us an idea of what was happening to the sculptor. He was close to losing himself to his own bloodlust before Ishin took his arm off in an attempt to save himself. Yet the conversation we have about the tool and the collection of the sculptor's works in the esoteric text show that even after this, the sculptor was close to igniting the flames of hatred. But he abandoned the path of the shinobi, for the prosthetic esoteric text description states, written by a man who abandoned the path of the shinobi, but could not bring himself to discard his painstaking research. The fact the sculptor was losing himself after gaining his prosthetic arm is backed up by the description of the living force skill in the prosthetic skill line, which states, "The sculptor retired the shinobi prosthetic after the developing of this technique. He'd gone too far, killed too many. The flames of hatred had began to manifest." With the dialogue mentioned before, and these descriptions, we can see a foreshadowing of this man's future. The flames of hatred manifesting themselves within the sculptor. Yet, as mentioned before, he put aside the life of a shinobi in order to save himself from this fate. He would then take up sculpting the Buddha, and essentially this is what he's still doing today. But why does he do this? Well, he tells us this is the fate for having a karmic debt. As the evidence has shown us, this ex-shinobi has killed many people, and this is his karmic debt, and by carving the Buddhas he hopes to pay off that debt before it's too late. However, his proximity to hatred and rage translates into these sculptures. In fact, when we get him talking about using his tools for killing, he tells us that he needs to calm down, for his sculptures become more demonic as he becomes more enraged. When we return from the Hirata estate memory, we speak of what we saw. We then ask the sculptor what he saw. He says this,
Sculptor, what did that Buddha show you?
Were you listening?
Tell me.
Flames.
Flames.
That is all I can see. It doesn't matter what offering I make. Flames, spreading as far as the eye can see, and consuming Ashina.
That's...
We're done here.
At first, this may just appear to us to be a kind of generic future of what exists for Ashina, given the tumultuous period that we are in. However, it is instead a vision of what he will become, a vessel for the demonic, the vessel for hate and wrath incarnate. The one-armed shinobi becomes the demon of hatred. War comes to Ashina, and war brings strife, and in this strife, the fires that the sculptor has seen consumes him. The description of the demon of hatred's remnant says this, "A man who failed to become Shura instead became a vessel for the flames of hatred. As fate would have it, he was stubbornly bound to this world. It wasn't until he became a demon that he was finally able to depart for the next." Indeed, we see the demon is one-armed, with a prosthetic of sorts, which he wields to bring destruction to Ashina. There is one person we know who had one arm, and who failed to become Ashura, and this is our friend the sculptor. The internal ministry's camp has been burned by the demon. We see their soldiers panicking. Most likely, the sculptor's hatred overflowed when their forces arrived to bring violence to Ashina, and he became a vessel for a demonic presence which was fueled by his hatred. We owe it to our good friend to put him down and let him rest. When we speak to the old woman in the tower after we defeat the demon, she states this,
"You know, don't you? You know who the one-armed demon was before."
No.
I see. It might be better that way. What a fate. To be set ablaze in the fires of hatred and suffer eternally as a demon.
She emphasizes that he is one-armed, and that he was consumed by the fires of hatred, and that he had been so close to his whole life. Sekiro does not know who the demon was, but we do, and it is probably better for him that he does not. Indeed, as we execute the demon, the sculptor speaks out from within and thanks us for ending his misery, as the old woman had said. However, the old woman's warning rings in our ear, that we should not go the same way. Consumed by our bloodlust and hatred, as this war in Ashina continues to go on, and indeed across Japan of the Sengoku period. Thanks guys, that's my take on the Demon of Hatred, aka the Sculptor. If you'd like any more Sekiro content, please subscribe and like this video for more, as I love the game and I'll keep doing lore until I run out of things to say. Thanks guys, and have a good night.